The movie begins in a Hong Kong airport traffic control room when a guy storms in and shoots everyone present. He then pulls a rocket launcher from his bag and prepares it. When a small private plane arrives at the hangar, he establishes the launcher and waits for the passengers to exit. As soon as he identifies his primary target, he fires the rocket, causing the plane to explode. Then, A.L. Simmons, an ex-military soldier turned assassin, reveals himself. As soon as he activates the launcher's self-destruct mechanism, he exits the room. Not long after, the room explodes as an unnamed man observes from a distance. In an A6 headquarters in the USA, Jason Wynn is listening to the news report praising Simmons for his work. Later, he converses with a clone, a demon sent by the devil to disseminate brutality around the world, while managing evildoers and broadening the devil's mission. The clown then inquires about Wynn's promised ultimate weapon, but Wynn requests extra time, which the clown grants. The clown also requires him to recruit Simmons for something. The next day, Simmons emerges from the house, leaving his dog, Spaz, and climbs into the passenger seat of Terry's automobile. Terry gives him a newspaper article about an airport event that killed many civilians. He also informs him that his operations organized by Wynn have recently caused mayhem in the aftermath. As they drive away, the same unidentified man from the airport keeps an eye on them. Later, they arrive at a guarded facility, and Terry informs Simmons that he'll watch Wynn. A few moments later, Simmons comes to Wynn's office, reprimanding him for failing to keep the airport kill zone free of civilians. Still, he describes it as an unpleasant but essential sacrifice. So, Simmons declares his desire to resign, but Wynn fights against it, eventually relenting. Following this final operation, Wynn will organize his transfer, including a mission to extract a biochem plant in North Korea and carefully destroy any biological viruses. Eventually, Simmons decides to take on the project. That night, he takes out a guard to enter the biochem plant in North Korea. As he progresses inside, he discovers bombs on the biochemical container, which confuses him. Then, Wynn appears, claiming that priorities have shifted. On the other hand, Simmons says that there's a town less than a mile from the plant and that if they release the virus, everyone would die. Despite Wynn claiming that the villagers can be the virus's experimental hosts, Simmons refuses and points his gun at Wynn. Not long after Priest, Wynn's finest assassin, shoots and sprays him with liquid gas. Wynn throws his cigarette at Simmons' body, quickly catching fire, and the two leave. As they escape, Wynn detonates the bombs, killing Simmons in a vast explosion. Later, an all-burnt Simmons awakens in a chapel where the clown insults him for his burned body. He then walks down the church's stairwell and into an alley when he sees a reflection of his burned body in a puddle. Suddenly, he runs into the same man and tells him how long he's been gone, and that rat city is a place where everyone is welcome, but he doesn't care and walks away. Soon, he returns to his house, wondering what happened after the explosion because he can't remember anything. He believes it's a recent incident, but the man told him he's been dead for 5 years. When he arrives, he notices a birthday party with a clown and discovers Wanda and Terry are married. Spaz immediately senses and follows him, while Wanda's daughter Cayenne follows the dog. As Cayenne follows the dog, she sees Simmons on the ground and gives him candy. Wanda panics and calls for Terry, who shoos him upon seeing the burnt man. The clown sees all this and helps Simmons, pretending it's his friend Crispy, and they leave. Wanda tells Terry that she heard the man shout her name, but they don't recognize him, and he reassures her, saying they should get the kids inside. Later, in an alley, the clown exposes himself to be the demonic clown. At the same time, Simmons claims he feels like his skin is about to burst, to which the clown says that it's simply his necroplasm in its larval form. He wishes to go to the hospital, but the clown informs him that he's been dead for 5 years. The clown then forces him to go through various flashbacks for him to remember. He tells him that he died in an explosion and arrived in hell, where he met the Malbolgia, who offered him the command of his army. In exchange, he'll be able to see Wanda again, so he accepts. Then, Malbolgia commands him to assassinate Jason Wynn, yet Simmons refuses to believe him, so the clown takes him to his tomb. At the cemetery, Simmons sees his own grave, and he digs it up. He notices his burnt corpse and an old locket containing a photograph of him and Wanda. While he mourns his death, spikes develop from his torso, covering his entire body like armor. and the clown dubs him Spawn, General of Hell's armies. Simmons then places the locket on his chest and the armor absorbs it. After that, the clown returns him to the alley, explaining that he needs to leave him for a bit since he has some business to attend to first. Simmons tests his new armor as he leaves, saying it'll come in handy when he gets his hands on Wynn. The anonymous man reappears in front of him, telling him every decision has consequences and claims to be an assassin like Simmons. Nonetheless, he only murdered the Kingdom of Saxony 500 years ago and finally announced himself as Cogliostro. Later, at a 6 headquarters, where security is tight, a new segment shows Terry, now a 6's spokesman, defending the CIA and its director Wynn. While conversing with Priest, Wynn hears all of this and compliments him, and then she slides a CD into a projector. It demonstrates that his work is complete, that he has his ultimate weapon, Heat-16, a biological weapon, and he has the sole vaccination accessible. He also declares that he'll soon be able to command the entire planet. Simultaneously, Simmons arrives at the facility dispatching the guards. He then walks to the arsenal and equips himself with powerful weapons. At that moment, Terry walks into Wynn's office and requests to speak with him alone. As Priest leaves, Wynn compliments him on his handling of the media and offers him a drink. Terry can't keep lying to cover up overseas missions and wants to understand the field operations data better. On the other hand, Wynn reminds him that he isn't an analyst anymore, but he insists on looking at the data. Wynn says that he runs his organization his way, and Terry's role is to ensure the public agrees with him. Then, as they both leave, Terry notices the CD Special Ops. As they leave in a car, an armed Simmons watches them from the roof. When they arrive at their location, Wynn greets several guests. He informs them he's just a facilitator of Heat-16 and makes a toast to his partners, who are his beneficiaries. Terry gets an urgent call about a code red security breach at the armory and informs Wynn about it. Nonetheless, security details are on their way as they make their exit. Suddenly, an armored guy in a red cape falls through the glass ceiling, revealing himself as Simmons. He then grabs Wynn by the neck and reminds him who he is. He claims Wynn sent him to hell and threw him on a table. Next, he grabs Terry, who explains Wanda was heartbroken by Simmons' death. When he notices Wynn trying to escape, he tosses Terry away and prepares to kill Wynn, but Priest repeatedly shoots him. Inside, he sees that the armor absorbs the bullets and protects him. On the other hand, Wynn orders Priest to kill Simmons, so she attempts to kick him in the crotch, but his armor protects him and bites her leg. Simmons then throws her against the balcony railing and she mocks his charred appearance before he shoots her. Later, the clown congratulates him, but more soldiers appear and shoot him, crashing his back against the window. Mid-fall, chains appear from his armor, rescuing him as he clings to the building's wall. When the cops come, they notice him on the side of the building and shoot at him in an attempt to take him down. His armor produces a big red cape that hides and disguises him against the rest of the building. Because the cops don't notice him, he tries to escape, but the building edge breaks, and the police spot him and shoot him from below. He tries to run away but falls off the building. The red cape saves him by flying out to the church. Later, paramedics arrive at the building with Priest's body, and Wynn mourns the loss of his assassin. The clown then calls Wynn, who accuses him of not warning him about Simmons. He only answers that he didn't expect him to be ready so soon. At the same time, Wynn tells him that the Heat-16 is operational. Before leaving, he tells Wynn that he got a memo stating that they will be rigging a device on Wynn's heart that will connect his heartbeat to the Heat-16 bomb. So if his heart stops, the bomb goes off. Meanwhile, at a conference, Wanda talks about the situation at the biochem plant in North Korea. She then sees that the burnt man is watching her, but he immediately leaves and glances at her daughter playing at the back with Spaz. Simmons approaches Cayenne and Spaz and inquires about her well-being. She describes his face as weird but cool. When she asks his name, he says Spawn, and she introduces herself as Cayenne and then returns to her mother. Later, Malabolgio brings the clown to hell, where he scolds and tells him that he put him on Earth to ensure Spawn keeps his end of the agreement. However, the clown complains that he should have been the general, not Spawn. He reminds the clown that for his army to be complete, Spawn must choose to murder Wynn and release the virus. So he gives the clown one last chance to do so. At the conference, Wanda soon finds Cayenne, who tells her she was with Spawn, who helped her. Then, Terry arrives, grabs them, and rushes home, but Wanda asks him to explain what is going on first. He says Wynn got attacked, and he doesn't want to take any chances, so they race to their car, and Cayenne asks for Spaz, who's still with Simmons. Terry says that Spaz knows his way home, so they leave him and rush home. Later, in Rat City, a man and a little boy eat rubbish leftovers. The boys spit it out, saying it's rotten. The man tells him not to complain and prepares to hit him. Then, Simmons arrives and throws him off the kid. He prepares to shoot the man, but the little boy says to stop, as the man is his dad. So, Simmons leaves, followed closely by Spaz. Meanwhile, Wynn is prepped for surgery to implant the device in his chest. They tell him that if his vital signs drop, the device linked to his heart will cause the global release of Heat-16. The device is supposedly a deterrent to assassination attempts. Still, Malebolgy wants Simmons to kill Wynn and trigger the apocalypse. Back at the church, Simmons is preparing his weapons, and the little boy from earlier arrives and introduces himself as Zach. When Zach says aloud that he sometimes wonders if they're in hell, the clown comes and says they aren't, but they will be soon. As they're alone, Simmons says he has concluded that the clown ordered Wynn to kill him. Before killing him, he asks why the clown chose him to lead the war. The clown says it was his path, as they trained him to be the general, with those secret missions. Simmons grabs the clown by his neck and throws him away since he doesn't want to join or command his army. The clown grabs Spaz, threatening to kill it if he doesn't enter their army, but Simmons shoots him first. Then, the clown, enraged, reveals his identity as the Violator and transforms into his demonic form. The Violator grabs Simmons, who shoots back, but they both fall down the church balcony, landing in the Rat City alleyway. The Violator throws Simmons against the church's spiked fence, then transforms back to the clown and taunts Simmons before leaving. As he goes, Cogliostro rescues him, and the armor heals Simmons' back, but he passes out from the pain. Later, Simmons awakens to Cogliostro wearing a sword on his neck, which he quickly retracts. He shows the aftermath of his fight with the Violator in the alleyway, which injured many bystanders. Cogliostro reminds him that Simmons is dead and that he's spawned now. Allowing Wanda to leave is the only way he can be free. But Cogliostro tells him the war between heaven and hell depends on their choices, which require sacrifice. Simmons apologizes to Zach about what happened in the alleyway before leaving to prepare to murder the clown. As he readies his guns, Cogliostro tells him that guns are useless, so he teaches him how to use his necroplasm armor. Cogliostro tells him that he must learn to control it by staying clear and focused, visualizing the object, and then the armor does the rest. Before Simmons goes for Wanda, Cogliostro reminds him to take care of his powers because he'll die if he drains them. So he throws away his weapons, fully trusting his armor, and gives Zach Spaz's collar, requesting him to find the dog before he steals a motorcycle and leaves. On his way there, he encounters the clown in a truck, who tries to run him over, but Simmons uses his cape and makes armor over. Hence, the clown releases the necro goo from the car, making Simmons' motorcycle slip. The clown turns the truck around and charges for Simmons, protected under the cape's armor, causing a big explosion. Meanwhile, Terry hacks into his office database and downloads secure files on a CD. Back at home with Wanda, he examines the contents of the CD and sees Wynn's plan to conquer the world using Heat-16. Later, Wanda dreams of Simmons but wakes up as Cayenne asks for something to drink. Simultaneously, Terry calls the news reporter from before and tells her he has evidence against Wynn and emails it to her. Then, Cayenne and Wanda go inside his office, followed closely by an armed Wynn. Wynn sees Terry's computer with the email in progress and shoots it. He prepares to shoot Terry, but the doorbell rings, so Wynn orders Juan to get it, leaving Cyan and Terry with him. Behind the door is the clown, informing Wynn that Spawn is on his way. Not long after, Simmons arrives and sees Wanda tied up, and Wynn holds a knife against her throat, threatening to kill her unless he joins Hell's army. Wynn doesn't give Wanda much time to think before stabbing her in the chest. Angered, he grabs Wynn's and throws him to the door, which cracks open, revealing a tied-up Cayenne and Terry. Wynn explains that he can't kill him because if his heart flatlines, the device will release the virus, killing everyone on the planet. Simmons has nothing to lose now, so he throws him into the fireplace and attempts to stab him. but Wynn objects that if Simmons kills him, he also kills Cayenne. The revelation stops him, so he uses his necroplasm to grab the device in Wynn's and blasts it with his eyes, but it doesn't explode. He tries to untie Wanda's body, but she awakens and stabs him, revealing herself as the clown in disguise. He yells at Simmons for not killing Wynn, which could have started the apocalypse. Suddenly, Cogliostro arrives, stabbing the clown with his sword and shocking them all. After, he frees Wanda and removes the knife from Simmons, telling him to focus on healing. Then, a fire engulfs them both and the clown brings them to hell. Now, the clown is transformed into the Violator and battles Cogliostro. Simmons then tries to stop him from killing Cogliostro. But because of the unknown fiery terrain, the Violator gets the better of him. So Simmons punches his neck and subdues him. Then, Malebolgia confronts Spawn and tells the demon that he'll never lead Hell's army. Then he and Cogliostro escape just as Malebolgia's men are about to overpower them. Back at Wanda's house, Simmons finally accepts Wanda and Terry's relationship. Moments later, Zach arrives, bringing Spaz. Suddenly, the Violator appears behind Simmons and grabs him, attempting to eat him. Cogliostro then tells Simmons to use his armor, so he uses it. He makes spikes around his head that stab the Violator's mouth and his chains cut off its head. After the fight, the Violator's decapitated head transforms back to the clown and goes back to hell. Later, police and media arrive at Wanda and Terry's house, having received the proof against Wynn and broadcasting it globally, resulting in Wynn's imprisonment. Wanda and Cayenne are safe, and Cayenne is wearing Simmons' locket. The movie ends with Simmons living at the church and has decided to protect the Earth.